What we're doing today is we're going to run through the installation procedure for installing our PS28 Pro Slide over cabinet track and monitor mount. I'm Randy Rogers, I'm the engineering manager here at ICW, and I'll be running through these steps with you. Approximately 9 inches back from the front edge. This really isn't a magic number. It just means that the drop tube is going to come out in a good range with relation to the front of the cabinet. So again, we're going to start at about 9 inches here. We're going to make sure it's square to the wall. And then we're going to center it left to right in the cabinet, or offset it if you'd prefer it offset to get the end result to favor one side of the cabinet or the other. So we're pretty well centered. We're at 9. We're going to mark all 8 of the attaching holes so that we can drill these. We're going to drill these holes with a 1/4 inch drill bit. We have a furniture nut and a flathead screw. This combination can go either direction. Screw on top and furniture nut inside of the cabinet, or this direction, the furniture nut on top and the flathead screw inside of the cabinet. We'll go ahead and drill our holes, and then I'll show you the difference between the fastener going one way or the other. Okay, on the inside of the cabinet, you can see I've installed the fasteners both ways. If you want a nice flush finish on the inside of the cabinet, then you'll have to add a countersink. It just requires an extra tool and an extra minute to countersink those holes. Otherwise, with the furniture nut on the inside, it's still a nice clean finish. It's just not perfectly flush. All right, now that our track is attached firmly to the top of the cabinet, we're going to start with these 2 back bolts for attaching the arm. We're going to start these two back bolts. We can just start them in a couple of threads. And then the attaching plate has keyholes in it, so it hooks up nicely right there. You drop those on the keyholes, slide it forward a little bit, and then you can these bolts will hold the weight of the arm. Insert the 2 other bolts in the front holes. Tighten all 4. And there's the arm mounted. Now, we have a travel limiter right under here that we're basically going to adjust to keep this from contacting here. So we're going to take 5/32 hex key, and we'll loosen these bolts slightly. Slide this foot forward until it hits right there. Now you have a nice cushion stop so that the arm doesn't come down into the cabinet. This is one of the things when we talked about the original, the 9 inches, the setback here. If you bring the arm closer to the front edge of the cabinet, you gain a little bit more space back here. If you move the track closer to the wall, then you might run into a spot where the travel stop doesn't come into play, but also the monitor is going to end up too close to the face of the cabinet. So that's where that 9-inch setback comes from. Okay, next step is installing the ball VISA monitor mount onto the back of the monitor. This is already attached. The kit comes with VISA screws, so that's already attached there. Next we're going to attach our handle to the ball VISA. then this whole setup is going to attach to the bottom of the drop hole. For expedience in the video, I'm just going to attach this with 2 bolts. The clamp does come with 4. We're just going to let it drop to the bottom of the drop hole for now. Kind of a little even pressure on both sides. And what we're going to do at this point is going to locate our cabling. So in order for the cables to go all the way from the monitor out the back of the track, it does require 10-foot power and whichever VGA or HDMI, whichever cabling you prefer for the monitor, it does require 10-foot cables. So you want to start with the biggest connector, drops through first. And then the next smallest connector second. We'll give ourselves a little slack here. You can come down one side or the other with cables. We want to plug those cables in. And then pull back any amount of slack that's excess. You basically just want to have enough slack in the cabling to allow movement at the ball visa. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the counterbalance on the arm. There's a little graphic on here, an arrow that shows positive and negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick our 3/16 T-handle in there. We're going to lift the arm up to where it's horizontal, and we're going to adjust this up until it starts supporting its own weight. That's pretty good. And then it's time to start cabling or continue the cabling. So the top of this cabinet is not drilled for the cabling to come through from wherever it plugs into the wall or wherever the CPU is. So I'm just gonna keep this general purpose, but when we come up the side of the arm, we're gonna go on the side that's opposite of wherever the hole in the cabinet is. So I'm going to cable this as if the cabling is going to come through the cabinet on the left side. So we're going to come up the right side. So we're going to loosen. Cable management cover a little bit. It doesn't have to come all the way off. I'm just going to loosen it enough to get the 2 cables through. Looks like I need to go a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And now, we want to make sure that we're not pinching these cables under this cover. So we're going to push it down by hand, and as we tighten it, we're going to make sure that we can move the cables back and forth. Snug. we're going to pass these cables across the mounting foot. Something like that. All right, now to continue on the cabling, the kit includes this split loom. So we're going to slide this split loom over the cables. It takes a little bit getting started, but ends up closing over the cables quite nicely. This is it's an important part of the cable management here. Keeps the cables all going the same direction and keeps them all together doing the same thing. Okay, we want to make sure the seam is all lined up and going in the same direction. It looks pretty nice. The cables seem to be pretty free and smooth in there. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to make a loop. So we're crossing over here. We're going to make a loop, kind of pinch the cable here and here and make a loop that slips right inside here. So we want to make sure that we've got a little bit of slack right here so that the arm can rotate both directions without pulling the cables tight. I've got it a little tight, so I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. About right there, looks pretty good. So we're going to take a zip tie. Wrap around. We're trying to get the end of the loom and the cables all together so it keeps the loom from sliding, or keeps the cables from sliding in the loom, I should say. We're going to pull that zip tie up nice and tight. And then on the other side, we're basically doing the same thing. Zip tie nice and tight. Hit those ends. And now we're going to slide the whole assembly all the way to the far end, and we want to loop the looms and cables pretty much right in line with the end of the track. Then what we're going to do is loosen those. We're going to set the cables now from sliding inside of the track. We're just going to put a little pressure against there, tighten that screw down. This one, pressure against the whole assembly. You want to you're not just getting the loom, but you're getting the cables and the loom there. Tighten that screw down. And now you're cabled. Okay, so this end of the track was somewhat blocked in the video from the other side. So when we're locking down the loom, we just want it to be, pretty close in this vicinity. A little bit outside of the end of the track is fine, just so that it all follows how it's supposed to. And then there's one last thing from this side. So we like to put a couple of zip ties right at either end of the cord management cover. Something like that. verify that we don't have any tight cables anywhere. And that's it.